Awkward. I can't tell by the screen. We're going back to Grimm. We are in Grimm. The Grimm fairy tale. Okay. Why is everything shifted over? Again. Hell. Radio sets. Sets. This room says it sets. Hey, cubbies. I am running behind as usual. I know. That's a first, right? Me running behind schedule. That never happens here. I mean, whatever, right? I want it to be on by 9, so I'm on by 9. So what can you say? I have added a few more commands to the system, so there is that. Figure out which window is talking to me because so many freaking windows open right now, it's unreal. Except it's not unreal because I can't afford that. Ouch. Freaking hell. I hear that bass shit outside and I've got headphones on. Damn it. Freaking catchy Inferno. Okay. I don't know why I go live. Twitch always goes really slow on my laptop. So I can't really tell if it's on yet. Twitchy lag. Lag and twitchy. That's interesting one. Okay. I don't know what the cool Cooper's on right now. Most of them affiliated. And there's me. I'm just a wolf. Hey. Okay. I think when my model starts acting up. Now it just completely vanished. What the hell? What are we doing, OBS? It just vanished me. It's crazy. And it literally changed me to visible. Well, that ain't nice. Where am I? Audio's went out. Can't live echoing myself. Where is my model? Hello? OBS? What the hell? I don't want to be invisible. Oh, I do, but that's beside the point. If I wanted to be visible, I wouldn't be, hiding out behind a wolf. Because, wolfishness. Where the hell is my model, though? No? OBS? YouTube Studio and Psych. Let's try that. Okay. It's YouTube Studio at second. Okay. I'll show up soon. Oh, that's dark red. OBS, what are you doing? YouTube Studios unable to sync. What the hell? Steam, why are you doing this to me? I don't want to be invisible. Got a black cat staring at me like I'm crazy, talking to myself. This Corvus Squatter. This freaking Pokemon, I don't know. Corvus Squatter, so it is a Corvid, so Raven, right? Oh, got blurry images. Not be showing up. We don't talk about scuff. Oh no, no. We just expect the scuff. uh, reason. Good thing I never expect anything to go right, you know? And it is so blurry I can't even read what it says. Let's see. Failed to write log. Make sure YouTube Studio has the right permissions. Yada yada yada. Okay. Close that. Ooh, I caught the bird. Bird has been caught by me. Me has bird now. Okay, start server. Okay. Okay, good. Are we good? Are we awesome? Are we sane? That's never given anymore. Ah, there we go. What does it look like zoomed in some? Hello, hello. Hello. Hello there. Okay. I hear audio. Yeah, cool. Oh, I can hear myself. I can see myself, which is crazy because I'm just gonna switch to something else to listen. Anyway, it is a Brothers Grimm night. As it's Friday. I'm actually gonna post them doing it this time. I did last night. But hey. I'm gonna tag the VTuber thing. Let's see. Fish. I'm copying that. And posting. Oh, man. Excuse me. Da, 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 da. Come channel. Crazy my vision's already blurry and I can't say I've really drunk all that much. I wonder if I have some pizza better. Thank you. I'm not asleep. I just look like I am. Do, 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 do. Okay. Hello, Gravity. Gravity links in my tablet. I wanted to take it with it. Okay. Tablet's turned off since they're already not taking audio. Okay. I can go back to this. Say stuff. One more thing on here. Hey, it's connected for once. Microphone connected. Yes, everything should be working peachy. But will it? We'll never know. Okay. I do have some timer posts that should pop up, so yeah, let's. Oh, wait, where am I? There I am. Oh, there we go. Yay! Oh, you better respond. Oh, there we go. Okay. Where am I on the screen? Do not on the screen. Go away. Thank you. Oh, wow. If we're ready to do stuff, I guess I can get into story mode. Let me turn a couple things on. Okay. Sound alerts are on. And it's YouTube audio, maybe? I don't hear anything. Oh, come on. I need my ambience.
Imagine if manufacturing automation was simple. Introducing
There we go. Do we hear a fireplace? Do we hear the library? Cool. Oh, my cubs, my cubs, my cubs, my cubs. So you can't be my cubs because I don't have any. Oh, you're my cubs. Because you're young, innocent, and kind of cuddly. Fix another thing real quick. Ouch. Ah, a little better. Now I'll be freezing my tail off. Because I need my tail. Yeah. So, where did we leave off? Oh. Oh yeah, we just finished the Miracle Child. Jeez. We're starting at the Poor Maiden. And don't mind me if I don't do as many voices as I did yesterday, because I had a hell of a time talking after that. So, there is that. Anyway. Our first story tonight, as I said maybe a minute or two ago, is The Poor Maiden. Once upon a time, there was a poor little maiden. Her mother and father had died, and she no longer had a house in which she could live, and a bed in which she could sleep. She had nothing more in the world than clothes on her back, and she still carried a small piece of bread in her hand that someone who had taken pity on her had given her. Despite all this, the maiden was good and pious. Because that's how they do things back then. As she set out on her way, she encountered a poor man who asked her so desperately for something to eat that she gave him the piece of bread. Then she continued on her way and met a child who said to her, "My head is freezing. Please give me something that I can tie around it." And after she had walked a bit further, oh, I am so lost already. Cool. Back in the night. So, kid was freezing. Please give me something I can tie around my head. So the maiden took off her cap and gave it to the child. After she walked a bit further, she came across another child without a bodice. Gasp. Scandalous. Children without bodices. She gave him hers. Gave a male child her bodice. Cool. Further on, she met another child who asked her for a little dress. And she took off her own dress and gave it to her. So now, the young maiden is walking around, I'm gonna say in her shift. Otherwise she's naked. You don't need to know about that, kids. Right? Right. Finally, she came to a forest, and it was already dark there. Then yet another child came and asked her for her undershirt. And the pious maiden thought, it's pitch black, and you can certainly give away your undershirt. Alright, this pious maiden's stripping for kids. Damn. And so she gave it to the child. All of a sudden, the stars fell from heaven and turned into pure, shining, hard coins. And even though she'd given away all her undershirt, she had another one on her made from the finest linen. That's how stores do. So she gathered the coins in her undershirt and became rich for the rest of her life. Okay then, so. Be good, I guess, and you won't walk naked the forest. Or there's wolves who are kind of disappointed that a young maiden is not walking naked in the forest. Okay, next one. The mother-in-law, 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 mother-in-law. Okay. The mother-in-law. Once there lived a king and a queen, and the queen had a terribly evil mother-in-law. One day the king went to war, and the old queen had her daughter-in-law locked up in a damp cellar, along with her 2 little sons. She called her cook and ordered him to go down to the cellar and take one of the little sons, slaughter him, and cook him. Mother-in-law. What kind of sauce would you like? Asked the cook. Because cooks don't care. A brown one, said the old queen. The cook then went down to the cellar and said, "Ah, your highness, the old queen wants me to slaughter and cook one of your sons for this evening." The young queen was deeply distressed, oh shit, and said, "Well, why don't we take a pig, cook it the way she wants, and say that it was my child?" Long pork, okay. The cook did just that and served the pig in a brown sauce to the old queen, and as though it were the child. Indeed, she ate it with great relish and mustard. Soon thereafter, the old queen thought, "Child's meat tasted so tender that I'll have to have the second one as well." Because kids are tasty, I guess. So she called the cook and ordered him to go down to the cellar and slaughter the second son. "What kind of sauce would you want to cook him in?" "Oh, and a white one," said the old queen. The second son's clearly poultry. The cook went down into the cellar and said, "Ah, the old queen has ordered me to slaughter your second little son. Cook him too." "Take a suckling pig," the young queen said. "Cook it exactly how she likes it." The cook did just that, and set it in front of the old queen in a white sauce, and she devoured it with even greater relish than before. Finally, the old queen thought, "Now that the children are in my body, I'd like to eat the young queen as well." Well, of course, this is where the story ends. The old queen called the cook and ordered him to cook the young queen. And then it just says Fragments. The cook slaughters the dough the 3rd time. However, the young queen is double preventing her children from screaming. Ooh. Yeah, okay. I love when a story's not complete in the book. Anyway. This one's probably just referring to fragment stories, which means, well, because the translator can have all of them. Which I guess is fine and dandy, but not. So, Fragments. Sunflower. The young princess was called Sunflower because she was as white like snow and born during the winter. Oh, Snowflower, not Sunflower, sorry, Ghost. One day her mother became sick and the princess went out to pluck the herbs that might heal her. As she went by a big tree, a swarm of bees flew out and covered her entire body from head to toe. But they didn't sting or hurt her. Instead, they carried honey to her lips. Her entire body glowed through and through with beauty. What? Honestly. What were they smoking? The princess with the louse. Lousy princess. Once upon a time, there was a princess who was so clean, indeed, the cleanest in the entire world, that nobody ever saw the least bit of dirt or stain on her. However, one time a louse was found sitting on her head. This was regarded as such a true miracle that nobody wanted to kill the louse. Instead, the people decided to nourish it with milk so that it would grow. So this is indeed what happened. The louse grew until it was finally as large as a calf. That is a big freaking bug, Cubs. Big ass bug. Oh. Then the louse died later. The princess ordered it to be skinned, and a dress to be made out of its fur. Is that fur? Soon thereafter, a man came to court the princess, and she demanded that he was the first to guess what animal had provided the fur for her dress before she could marry him. Since he couldn't do this, and nor could any other suitors, they all had to leave the palace. Finally, a handsome prince came and was able to solve the riddle in the following way. Oh yeah, and that cat's off too. Because reasons. Prince Johannes. Less than a paragraph on this one. This is a tale about melancholy and nostalgic wanderings, about his flights with the spirits, about the Red Castle, and his numerous trials and tribulations until he finally got the glimpse of the beautiful name. The good cloth. Two daughters of a seamstress inherited one old good cloth, and whenever anything happened was wrapped in it, said cloth turned the object into gold. This provided them with enough to live on, and they did some sewing to earn extra money. Why? One sister was very smart, the other stupid. One of the day, the oldest went to church, and a Jew came down the street. Beautiful cloth for sale, beautiful cloth, trade for old cloth, anyone want to trade? Lord. When the stupid sister heard that, she ran out to him and traded the good old cloth for new cloth. This was exactly what the Jew wanted, because, racist story, for he knew all the power that came with the old cloth. When the older sister came home and said, "We're doing poorly with our sewing. Now I've got to get some money. Where's our cloth?" "It's good that I've done what I've done," said the stupid sister. "While you were gone, I made a trade for brand new cloth." What? Oh, you sure want to know the history of that one. Okay. Fox and The Geese could be a solid story. Alright, that's maybe a page. The Fox and the Geese. Once the fox came to the meadow where there was a flock of nice, pretty-up geese. Then he laughed and said, "Oh, I've come just in the right moment. You're all sitting there together so nicely that all I have to do is eat you up one by one." The geese began cackling and jumped up. They screamed for mercy and begged piteously for their lives. However, the fox said, "No mercy, you've got to die." Finally, one of the geese plucked up her courage and said, "Well, if we poor geese must surrender our innocent young lives, then show us some mercy by granting us one last prayer, so that we won't have to die with our sins. After that, we'll jump in the line and row, and we'll be able to pick from our fast among us." Yeah, I'm having trouble reading it. "Alright," said the fox. "That's a fair and pious request. I'll wait until you're done." So the first goose began a good long prayer and kept saying, "Gaga." Since she refused to end her prayer, the second one didn't wait for her turn. It also began saying, "Gaga." And when they were all finished praying, Tim will be continued to be told. But in the meantime, they're still saying their prayers, because that's what geese do. Clearly not Canadian geese. Canadian geese would attack the freaking fox. Notes. Night court. Okay, now we're getting back into maybe some stories. What was that picture? The Rich Man and the Poor Man. In olden times, the dear Lord himself was still wandering the earth among mortals. He happened to grow tired one evening, and night descended before he could reach the end. Then he saw two houses right in front of him, just opposite one another. One house had a large and beautiful and belonged to a rich man. The other was small and shabby and belonged to a poor man. Our dear Lord thought, I'm sure I won't be a burden to the rich man, and he knocked at the door. All at once the rich man opened the window and asked what he wanted. A night's lodging. The rich man examined the traveler from head to toe. And since the dear Lord was dressed so simply and didn't look like he had much money in his pockets, the rich man shook his head and said, I can't put you up. My room is full of seeds. If I were to put you up with all the people who knocked at my door, then I'd soon be going out begging for myself. Look for a place somewhere else. That's what rich dudes do, apparently. With that, he slammed the window shut and left the dear Lord standing there. So the dear Lord turned around and went across the street to the small house. No sooner had he knocked than the poor man already had the door open and asked the traveler to enter and spend the night in the house. It's already dark, he said, and you won't be able to go much further out tonight. The Lord was pleased to hear that and entered the house. The poor man's wife welcomed him by shaking his hand. She told him to make himself feel at home, and to feel free to use anything they had, even though they didn't have much. Whatever they had, he could gladly have. Then she put potatoes on the fire, and while they were cooking, she milked the goat so that they might have at least a little milk with the meal. When the table had been set, the dear Lord sat down and ate with them, and he enjoyed the meager repast because there were grateful faces around him. When they had all eaten, and it was time to go to bed, the wife whispered to her husband, Listen, dear husband, let's make up the bed of straw ourselves tonight so that the poor traveler can sit in our bed and rest. He's been traveling the whole day and is probably very tired. That's wonderful, he answered. I'll go and offer it to him. And he went to the dear Lord and told him that, if he did not mind, he could sleep in their bed and give his limbs a proper rest. The dear Lord didn't want to take the old couple's bed, but they insisted until he finally took their bed and lay down in it. Meanwhile, they made a bed of straw for themselves and lay on the ground. The next morning, they were up right before daybreak and cooked a pitiful breakfast for their guest. When the sun began to shine through the little window and our dear Lord stood up, he ate with them again and prepared to continue his journey. As he was standing in the doorway, however, he turned around and said, Because you are so kind and good, I'm going to grant you 3 wishes, and they shall indeed be fulfilled. There's nothing I want more than eternal salvation, said the man. And also that we stay healthy and get our meager daily bread, as long as we wish. For the third thing, I don't know what to wish. Don't you want to wish for a new house in place of this old one? Asked the dear Lord. Oh yes, said the lad. I'd certainly be pleased if I could have that as well. Right before his departure, the dear Lord fulfilled their wishes. turned the old house into a new one, and departed. When the rich man got up, it was broad daylight. As he looked out of his window toward the other side of the road, he saw a beautiful new house. His eyes popped wide open, and he called his wife and said, "Take a look. How did that happen? Just yesterday was a dumpy house standing there, and today there's this new beautiful one. Run over and find out what happened." So his wife went over and asked the poor man, who told her, "Last night a traveler came by looking for a night's lodging. Right before his departure this morning, he granted us 3 wishes: eternal salvation, good health, and our meager daily bread for the rest of our lives. Beautiful new house in place of the old shack." After the rich man's wife heard this, she hurried back and told her husband what had happened. Then the man said, "I'd like to tear myself in two and beat myself to a pulp. If I'd only known. The stranger came to our house first, and I turned him away." "Hurry," said his wife. "Get on your horse. The man hasn't gone far. You must catch up with him and get him to grant you 3 wishes too." Nope. Now the rich man mounted his horse and managed to catch up with the dear lord. He used sweet talk with our dear lord and begged him not to take it amiss that he had not turned him had not let him into the house right away, for he had gone to look for the door key, but the stranger disappeared in the meantime. Liar! Even though I did look at it through the window. The rich man assured him that, if he passed by again, he would find a place to stay in his house. "Very well," said the dear lord. "If I come back again, I shall stay with you." Then the rich man asked him whether also he could have 3 wishes, like his neighbor. The lord said yes, they would not turn out well for him, and it might be best if he refrained from wishing for anything. The rich man disagreed and asserted that he'd be able to choose something good if he knew for certain that the wishes would be fulfilled. "Just ride home," said the dear lord. "The 3 wishes you make shall be fulfilled." Now the rich man had what he wanted, so he rode home and began to ponder what he would wish for. As he was thus steeped in thought, he let the reins drop and his horse began jumping so much that his thoughts were continually disturbed and he couldn't collect them. He was annoyed at the horse, and he lost his patience and said, "I wish you'd break your neck." As soon as he uttered those words, boom, he was thrown to the ground and the horse lay dead and didn't move anymore. Thus the first wish had been fulfilled. Since the man was greedy, however, he didn't want to leave the saddle behind, so he cut it off and slung it on his back and proceeded on foot. Despite all this, he consoled himself that he still had 2 wishes left, and when he went walking through the sand under the blazing noonday sun, he became hot and surly. The saddle rested heavily on his back, and he was having a great deal of trouble thinking of a wish. Whenever he thought he had found the right wish, it would seem to him afterward too little and modest. At one point he began thinking how easy his wife had it at home, where she was probably in a cool room and enjoying a fine meal. Just the thought of that irritated him so much. Before he knew it, he blurted out, "I wish you were here sitting at the saddle in my home. You couldn't get off instead of my Yeah, babe. Try this again. Oh, cool. They're popping up. Yeah, the auto texts are working. Cool. Okay. Nice. Okay. I wish you were sitting on the saddle at home and couldn't get off instead of my carrying it on my back. And just as the last word left his lips, the saddle vanished from his back, and he realized that his second wish had been fulfilled. He became so hot now that he began to run. He was looking forward to sitting down alone in his room where he could think of something great for his last wish. Whenever he arrived home and opened the door in the living room, his wife was sitting on the saddle in the middle of the room. Since she couldn't get off, she was screaming and complaining. "You should be happy," he said. I'm going to get you all the riches in the world with my wish. Just stay where you are." Okay, so his wife is riding the saddle in the middle of the room. Nice. Whenever she yelled at him, "What good are all the riches in the world to me if I have to sit on this saddle? You wished me up here, and now you'd better get me off." Whether he liked it or not, he had to use the third wish to help her get rid of the saddle and climb down off of it. His wish was fulfilled at once, and so he got nothing from the wishes but irritation, wasted effort, and a lost horse. On the other hand, the poor people spent their lives happily, peacefully, and devoutly until they reached their blissful end. It's just me, or is our Lord worse than a genie? Those are like genie responses to wishes. Like, wish his stupid horse would break his neck. Snap. Dead. Ow. I'm stiff and sore today, Cubs. I almost canceled the stream just because I didn't want to have to deal with it. Here I am, because, I love you, Cubs. Don't tell your mom. I'm kidding. You can tell her. I mean, I do take care of you guys, right? I try to. And so, run games until someone loses an eye. That's just comedy. Okay. Ow. Damn, I'm sore. I haven't even made it to the other mark yet. I know it's not all recording stories, so. The next story. Dun, 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 dun. The Singing, Springing Lark. Okay. The Singing, Springing. Cool. Once upon a time, there was a man about to go on a long journey, and upon his departure he asked his 3 daughters what he should bring back to them. The oldest wanted pearls, the second diamonds, but the third said, "Dear father, I'd like to have a singing, springing lark." "Yes," said the father, "if I can get one, you shall have it." So he kissed all 3 daughters and departed. Now, by the time he was ready to return from his journey, he had purchased pearls and diamonds for the 2 oldest daughters. And even though he had looked all over, he had not been able to find the singing, springing lark for his youngest. He was particularly sorry about that because she was his favorite. The youngest typically is daddy's girl. In the meantime, his way took him through a forest. In the middle was he discovered a magnificent castle. Near the castle was a tree, and on top of this tree he saw a lark singing and springing about. "Oh, you've come at just the right time," he said, quite pleased, and ordered his servant to climb the tree and catch the little bird. But when the servant went to the tree, a lion jumped out from under and shook himself and roared so ferociously that the leaves of the trees trembled. "If anyone tries to sting my springing lark," he cried. I'll eat him up. I didn't know the bird belonged to you, said the man. Can I buy my way out of this? No, said the lion. There's nothing you can save. There's nothing that can save you unless you promise to give me the first thing you meet when you get home. If you agree, then I'll not only grant you your life, but also let you give the bird to your daughter. I'll also give you the bird for your daughter. How did the lion know that the bird was for his daughter? You know, the guy just didn't want to singing Springing Lark for himself. However, the man refused and said, that could be my youngest daughter. She loves me most of all and always runs to meet me when I return home. But the servant was very frightened and remarked, it could also be the cat or a dog. The man let himself be persuaded and took the singing, springing lark with a sad heart. He had promised to the lion he would give him the first thing that he encountered when he reached his house. When he now rode home, the first thing he met was none other than his youngest and dearest daughter. Indeed, she came running up to him and threw her arms around him and kissed him. As soon as she saw that he had brought her a singing, springing lark, she was even more overcome with joy. But her father could not rejoice and began to weep. Oh, dearest child, he said, I had to pay a high price for this bird. To get it, I had to promise you to a wild lion. When he gets you, he'll tear you to pieces and eat you up. Then he went on to tell her how everything had happened and begged her not to go there, no matter what the consequences might be. Yet she consoled him and said, Dearest father, since you've made a promise, you must keep it. I'll go there, and once I've made the lion nice and tame, I'll be back here safe and sound. The next morning, she had her father show her the way. Then she took leave of him and calmly walked into the forest. Now the lion was actually an enchanted prince. Beast. During the day, he and his men were lions. During the night, they assumed their true human forms. When she arrived there, she was welcomed in a friendly way, and the wedding was celebrated. As soon as night came, the lion became a handsome man, and so they stayed awake at night, slept during the day, so they lived happily together for a long time. Meow meow. One day the prince came to her and said, Tomorrow there will be a celebration at your father's house, because your older sister is to be married. If it would please you to attend, my lions will escort you there. She replied that yes, she would very much like to see her father again, and she went there accompanied by lions. There was great rejoicing when she arrived, for they had believed that she had been torn to pieces by the lion, and had long been dead. But she told them how well off she was, and stayed with them just as long as the wedding celebration lasted. Then she went back to the forest. When the second daughter was about to be married, she was again invited to the wedding. But on this occasion, she said to the lion, This time I don't want to go without you. You must come with me. However, the lion didn't want to attend the wedding, and said it would be too dangerous for him if a ray of light were to fall upon him. He would be changed into a dove, and have to fly about with the doves for 7 years. But she wouldn't leave him in peace, as princesses do, and said that she'd make sure to take good care of him and protect him from the light. So they went off together. It also took their small child with them. See, that comes already. Once there, she had a hall built for him so strong and thick that not a single ray of light could penetrate it. That was the place where he was to sit when the wedding candles were lit. However, its door was made out of green wood, and it split and developed a crack that nobody saw. Now the wedding had celebrated in splendor. But when the wedding procession with all the candles and torches came back to the church and passed by the prince's hall, A very, very thin ray of light fell upon the prince, and he was instantly transformed into a dove. When his wife entered the hall to look for him, she could only find the white dove sitting there. And he said to her, "For 7 years I shall have to fly about the world. But for every 7 steps you take, I shall leave a drop of red blood and a white feather to show you the way. And if you follow the traces, you'll be able to rescue me." Then the dove flew out the door, and she followed him. At every 7th step she took, a drop of blood and a little white feather would fall and show her the way. And thus she went further and further into the wide world, and never looked about to her stops until the 7 years were almost up. She was looking forward to that, and thought that soon they would be free. But they were still quite far from their goal. Once, as she was moving along, she failed to find any more little feathers or little drops of blood. Then she raised her head, and the dove had also vanished. "I won't be able to help him from a mortal," she thought. And so she climbed up to the sun and said to her, "Shout out to every nook and cranny, is there any chance you've seen a white dove flying around?" "No," said the sun, "I haven't. But I'll give you a little casket. Just open it when you need it greatest." Okay. She thanked the sun and continued on her way until the moon began to shine in the evening. "You shine the whole night through and on all fields and woods. Have you seen a white dove flying around?" "No," said the moon, "I haven't, but I'll give you an egg. Just crack it open when your need is greatest." She thanked the moon and went further until the night wind stirred and started to blow. "You blow around every tree and under every leaf. Have you seen a white dove flying around?" "No," said the night wind, "I haven't. But I'll ask the 3 other winds, perhaps they've seen one." The east wind and the west wind came and reported they had not seen a thing. But the south wind said, "I've seen a white dove. It's flown to the Red Sea and become a lion again. But the 7 years are now over. Right now the lion's in the midst of a battle with the dragon, which is really an enchanted princess." Lord. Well, the night wind said to her, "Here's what I would advise you to do. Go to the Red Sea, where you'll find some tall little reeds growing along the shore. Then count them until you come to the 11th one, which you're to cut off and use to strike the dragon. That done, the lion will be able to conquer the dragon, and both will regain their human forms. After that, look around. You'll see a griffin sitting by the Red Sea. Get on his back with the prince, and the griffin will carry you home across the sea. Now, here's a nut for you. When you cross the middle of the sea, let it drop. A nut tree will instantly sprout from the water, and the griffin will be able to rest on it. If he can't rest there, he won't be strong enough to carry you both across the sea. So if you forget to drop the nut into the sea, he'll let you fall into the water." She would put the nut in the sea anyway. Okay. She went there and found everything as the night wind had said. She counted the reeds by the sea, cut off the 11th, and struck the dragon with it. Consequently, the lion defeated the dragon, and both immediately regained their human forms. But when the princess, who had previously been a dragon, was set free of the magic spell, she picked the prince up in her arms, got on the griffin, and carried him off with her. So the poor maiden, who had journeyed so far, stood alone and forsaken again. "However," she said, "I'll keep going as far as the wind blows and as long as the cock crows until I find them." And off she went and wandered a long, long way until she came to the castle where the 2 were living together. Then she heard that the wedding celebration was to take place. "God will come to my aid," she remarked as she opened a little casket the sun had given her. There she found a dress as radiant as the sun itself. She took it out, put it on, and went up to the castle. Everyone at the court, and the bride herself, stared at her. The bride liked the dress so much that she thought it would be nice to have it for her wedding and asked if she could buy it. Not for money or property, she answered, but for flesh and blood. The bride asked her what she meant by that, and she responded, "Let me sleep one night in the prince's room." Wow. The bride didn't want to let her, but she also wanted the dress very badly. Dresses and princesses. Finally, she agreed, but the bridegroom's servants was ordered to give him a sleeping potion. That night, when the prince was asleep, the maiden was led into the room, where she sat down on his bed and said, "I followed you for 7 years. I went to the sun, the moon, and the 4 winds to find out where you were. I hoped you'd conquer the dragon. Are you going to forget me forever?" Yes. But the prince slept so soundly that it seemed to him as if the wind were merely whispering in the firs. When morning came, she was led out of the castle again, but she had to give up her golden dress. Since her ploy had not been much use, and she was quite sad and went to the meadow, where she sat down and wept. While she was sitting there, she remembered the egg that the moon had given her. She cracked it open, and the hen was 12 eggs. No, 12 chicks jumped out, all in gold. The heck? Ouch. Some theme to this, right? Oh. The peeping chicks scampered about and crawled under the mother hen's wings. There was not a lovelier sight to see in all the world. Shortly after that, she stood up and drove them ahead of her over the meadow until they came within sight of the bride, who saw them from the window. She liked the little chicks so much that she came right down and asked if she could buy them as princesses. "Not for money or possessions, but for flesh and blood. Let me sleep another night in the prince's room." The bride agreed and wanted to trick her as she'd done before. But when the prince went to bed, he asked the servant what had caused all the murmuring and rustling the night before, and the servant told him everything. That he had been compelled to give him a sleeping potion because the poor girl had secretly slept in his room, and that was supposed to give her another night with him. Wow. "Dump the drink by the side of my bed," said the prince. That night, the maiden was led to the room again, and when she began to talk about her sad plight, he had immediately recognized his wife by her voice, jumped up and exclaimed, "Now I really am free from the spell. It was like a dream. The princess had cast a spell over me and made me forget you, but God has helped me just in time." That night, they left the castle in secret, where they were afraid of the princess's father, who was a sorcerer. They got on the griffin, who carried them over the Red Sea, and when they were in the middle, she let the nut drop. Immediately, a big nut tree sprouted. The griffin was able to rest there. Then he carried them home, where they found their child, who had grown tall and handsome. From then on, they lived happily until their death. So, they started out kind of Beauty and the Beast-like. Curse was a little different. They had a kid while he was still cursed. And the curse changed. So she abandoned her kid to follow a bird for 7 years. I'm sad to say, but I'm getting kind of a headache. Not just because of the stories. If I want to try to read the Goose Girl or not. A little bit longer. just aching and hurting. Generally not feeling peachy, so. Hate calling things short like this. Barely over an hour stream. But as I said, headaches are pain and whatnot. I'm gonna go call for the night. I really hate doing short streams like this, but I don't think I can take it much more. So, see, 3. Can't really say what to do. Again, I'm sorry, Cubs. I just hurt too much. So, have a good evening. Have some good dreams. Have a good night, okay? Good night, Cubs. I really am sorry for having to cut it short. Good night.